One of life's greatest questions is what happens to us after we die. Is death the end or a new beginning? Welcome to the Round Trip Death Podcast. In this show, we listen to first-hand accounts of people who have been clinically dead and return to talk about it. Welcome to the podcast today. We have a very special guest today, David Oakford. David, hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Welcome to you. Thank you for having me.
I know you've had a really, really interesting experience years ago. We've talked a little bit. I've read a little bit about it, and I can't wait to hear your story. And so we're just going to jump right in. If you would take us back, and I know this was quite a few years ago, give us a little background as to what was going on in your life before you had this near-death experience, and then go ahead and tell us what happened.
Okay. In 1979, I was 19 years old, and I had the experience then when I was basically a bad kid. Basically, I would get up in the morning, go to school, either on the bus or I'd walk to school, and then I'd hang around the school all day and get into, do my stuff, smoke my weed, do, the pills, the mescaline, stuff like that. I did that. And so I started doing that stuff. I did that pretty often during that time, into like heavier type of drugs.
Okay. So is that what led to your experience, was the drugs?
Yes. So my experience was from a drug overdose. And I learned the hard way that crack cocaine is not the same thing as regular cocaine. It comes in a rock for a reason, because you're supposed to smoke it. It doesn't come in a powder. And what I did was I got the stuff. I didn't even know what it was then. I know it was some kind of cocaine. I didn't listen to the other part of it. I thought it was just like a brand name or something, And so I crushed it up and I snorted it, which it ended up being bad. But I did that, and my friend that got it for me, he said, you did enough, that's going to kill you. And I said, right, nothing's going to kill me. I don't die, And so I did that. And then we went outside on the front porch and had some beer out there. And I was standing around, and all of a sudden I had to sit down because I was getting a little dizzy, And then I sat down, and then that didn't work either. So I laid down and passed out on the front lawn, face down. But the next thing I did, I thought I woke up in this chair in the house, and I felt this sound. It was like a music was coming from the inside of my body. It was like tones, and each one, I could hear all of them at the same time, and I could hear each individual part. Okay, I'm hearing it, and eventually it faded away part by part, slowly faded away part by part. And then the next thing I know, I'm hearing loud rock music. It was the Doors. It was like way loud, and it felt like it was a sword cutting through me. It actually, it hurt. And I couldn't take it out. So I got up to turn the stereo down. Couldn't touch the knob. Tried to unplug it, couldn't unplug it. Started getting all panicky. Tried to go out the door, couldn't touch the handle, couldn't turn the handle, couldn't get out. And then I started getting more scared by the minute. And I went around the house looking for my friends, and I couldn't find them. And it started to be real hard to move. I tried like running, and then I ended up, I was trying to crawl. I was trying to do everything that I knew what to do to be able to move. Eventually, I made my way back into the family room where my body was, and I saw my body there, and that put me like over the top. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? How can this be? I never knew anything about that afterlife. Before that, I didn't know what to do. I got scared. And I thought, well, why don't I try to pray? Maybe, I kind of believed in that, So I prayed and I said, God, I really messed up here. I need some help. But, if you're there, can you please help me? And then the next thing I saw was this spirit being by the door. He was floating in the air. He had like his aura was all around him. He was his aura is what he was. And then he shaped into kind of like a human shape. It was just his head, and the rest of it was his. He had like this robe on him, and his feet didn't touch the ground. And I looked at mine, and my feet weren't touching the ground either. Now we know why I couldn't run or move around. So he said, I'm here to help you. And I said, well, okay. How do I know that you're not the devil trying to deceive me? He said, what do you think? Well, what's your first thought? You have to go by, your first thought. That's always the best thought, the first one, first intuition. So use it. And so, and then he started to tell me things that I only thought about when I was a kid.
So why do you think he was telling you those things? Just to sort of prove that he knew a lot about you?
Yeah. He proved that he knew me. He told me things that I had only thought about. He told me things that I cried about when I went to bed. I mean, he was there. I know that he was there. There's no question. And I know he's not the devil trying to deceive me. I know this.
Who do you think he is?
I think he's like an angel. He had a name for him, and he had a name for me, which I could not pronounce either one. So it's kind of hard to remember something you can't pronounce or spell, So I made a name for him for telling the story. I named him Bob, just so I could tell the story. I mean, it's a lot easier to say Bob than the spirit being or any other, synonyms that you can, use. But he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want outside. First thing, outside. We went through the wall and went outside, just like that. There's no effort, no nothing. And then he told me, so you can go, where do you want to go? You can go wherever you want. And I'd heard of the 7 wonders of the world. I didn't really know much about them, but I knew, that there were some, like the pyramids were one of them. And I said, so I thought about it, I said, well, how about that? Let's do that. Because it kind of surprised me, I never really thought of where I would ever go if I had the chance to go anywhere, And so he told me that we could go, and he said, calm, be calm, trust me, and then think about where you want to go. So we did that, and then in an instant, we were in Egypt. And I saw all the pyramids, and Bob told me that the pyramids had a function a long time ago that had to do with the transference between the energy from the universe and the planet. That's what their purpose was. And that's and then I saw them in the old times when they were at their peak, when they were actually being used. And I also saw the current times in the city. And the city was like that, and the pyramids were, the basically ruins they are now. But I saw both of those times. And in the past time, I saw myself. And Bob said, that's you. You're doing something now to make up for the things that you did in that life. Because I did something bad in that life. I was a bad kid too, probably. But we went there. We were there, and I asked him about how I could see myself in the past and then see me now, and then the present in the city. How could I see all that time? What's up with that? He said, well, that's how time works. He said, everything is everything.
Let me ask you a couple questions here. Did you said you saw the pyramids. Do you know where you were? Were you on the ground, in the air? Any idea?
It was in the air. We were in the air.
Okay.
So
and you just got there by Bob said think about it, and then you were there.
Yeah, it's astral travel is what it was. It was just a little. That's how we moved around.
Yeah. So did he talk like regular people, or was it more like telepathy?
It was more like telepathy. It was I could feel him talk. I couldn't hear it, but I could feel it. And I could understand it, and I talked the same way. So It was a natural thing. It was a natural thing. I didn't even think about it, how it was and that it was happening. It was just that natural to me then.
Okay. What happened after the pyramids?
Well, I wanted to see things on the way, and I wanted to go see the Southwest United States and the West Coast and the United States in general, because that's where I lived. And so we went and we flew. We flew about as high as the space shuttle would orbit, and we could see all the countries and all the ocean and everything. We went toward California over the Pacific, and there were places that were underwater that were energy places, like in Egypt. And there were places where that still work, where the energy comes in from the universe. The planet takes it, uses it when it needs, and then it transfers the energy to somewhere else, back to the universe. Or I don't know all the physics about it. But we went and we got to the Grand Canyon, and I saw that, and I saw the energy from it. When we passed the countries, I could see the energy from the countries too. Just in general sum of what energy is in there, whatever colors are there, just from the people and the land and everything. Just it was just the energy, and saw that, felt that at the Grand Canyon. Felt just like it did when I visited when I was a kid. And then we went a little bit north to the northwest, and I saw a mountain range. It was probably the Cascades, where these mountains, some of them were bald. They didn't have any trees on them, or less trees than the rest of them. They were, from deforestation. And saw that, and Bob said that we are basically ruining this planet. We're with all the stuff that we do to it, with our energy and what we and our decisions, and what we value, what we're going to do, and that was kind of sad. And then we flew over, and I flew over some cities, and you could see the energy in the cities was different than the energy in the country. It was like totally different. It wasn't as brilliant. It wasn't as colorful. There was a lot of like dark in it, in the cities itself. And I also saw other, what I guess I call them ghosts. There were spirits that were stuck in between the earth and the next plane after the plane that they're on. And there were spirits like Bob that helped them to go to the light. And like Bob was helping me go to the light. And I could see the energies from them, and I could see ghosts that weren't with anybody, and they were negative. They were totally negative. Their energy was negative, and I could tell. And it was all that energy was made up from all of their decisions on stuff that they did, and decisions from other people that affected them.
That's interesting. Explain. I'm trying to understand how you've mentioned a couple of times seeing energy. Is it how did you see it? Was it color? Was it just a perception with your eyes? How did that work?
It was colors. I mean, Bob only looked like his face in the beginning. The rest of it was just his massive colors and intensity, and he had like really bright colors and everything. My colors were like dark. I needed to, and I was dark at the time. My energy, I was dark, and I made dark energy. That's what I did. But I learned about them, and I learned that a lot of times the reason that they're there is because they either don't think they're dead, or they are afraid to go to the light, or they don't know about the light, or they just want to stay here and mess with people, and they do that. And they're happy right where they're at, and Bob isn't going to help them if they're not going to show an inclination of wanting some help. He's not going to bang his head against the wall to bring them back. They don't do that. Anyone who can be helped, that's who gets helped. I learned about the energy of the planet, and the planet had her own energy. He said that she has a name, and it's called Gaia, and she has her own energy, and she is alive. And she is like one of the best creations in the universe. It's like she's female. She's alive. She's alive just like my mom was alive. And I wanted to see her from afar, so we flew out to space and went by the moon. And I could see the planet. I could see it was all on the sunny side, and it was beautiful. And I could see the aura around the planet. The aura is not, you see the pictures of the planet from the space shuttle, and there's a little blue glow around it. Well, think about that 100 times more. That's what I saw. I saw the planet's aura, and there was a sound too. It was like a musical type of a sound. It didn't have a beat, but it was more like a hum. It reminded me of the sound that was coming from my body. Is what it reminded me of. And we talked a little bit more about the planet and what we're doing to each other. I was just taking all this stuff in, and then I thought, well, okay, see the moon, see the Earth. What about stars? I want to go see a star. How about that? Can I do that? He said, absolutely. Go anywhere you want. So we went and we flew like totally as fast as we did when we went to Egypt. And we went past each of the planets. And when we went past each of the planets in our system, we slowed down. And I could see that there were souls on all of those planets. And I could see that all the planets had their own auras, and all the planets had their own sound. And there's supposed to, I don't remember what the themes are, but each one of the planets has a theme for learning of different aspects of what stuff that we do here. It's you go on those planets until you graduate to come to this one, and you use everything that you learned from the other planets to make it here. So it's like it's kind of like, it is like reincarnation. It's what it's like. It's that was the evidence I saw, and I couldn't believe it. It's like, wow, okay, if that's how it is, that's how it is. So we kept going, and we went to this place, and it looked like a star from afar. But then we came closer, and it was a circle, and it had not a perfect circle. It was like it was like a spiral, is what it was. Might have been a spiral galaxy, but I saw, and it was spinning, and it was like sucking things in, and we stayed far away from it, so we wouldn't get sucked in. Okay. Well, I looked at this, and it was a calm center, and I could see there was something on the other side that was not black. It was not space on the other side. It was something else, and I wanted to go there. Right then I said, no, I want to go here. I want to go there. He said, well, I want to make sure that you're ready to handle what you find when you go there, because it could be dangerous. And I said, okay, why? How did all this stuff get to be? I started asking how, what about God? What is God really? I have an idea of, from someone else, but what is God? And Bob said that God is the sum total of all energy that there is. He's the sum total of all positive energy, sum total of all negative energy. Everything, all the energy that goes through everything, that's what God is. And when you understand everything, then I have a chance of understanding God. That's what he told me about God.
Let me ask you, when I hate to go back, but I didn't want to interrupt. When you were passing planets and you said you saw souls there, and they were sort of, remind me, they were graduating from one to another till they could get to Earth?
Right.
Is that pretty much how it worked? Was this something that Bob was explaining to you, or did that knowledge just come to you?
I think it was Bob explaining it to me. I'm not sure. I never thought about it. Never thought about that question.
Okay, go ahead. So you were talking about what was on the other side that you may not be ready for.
I wanted to go there, and I couldn't go there when we talked about God. And then I thought about, well, what about religion? Where's religion in all this? How does this work? And he said that there are masters to every religion. There's a great Jesus is a great master, and Buddha is a great master, and down the line, all the icons from those religions are great masters, and they all have the same goal at the end. And then this white light came, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant white light. I never saw it before. It was big, and it surrounded me. And then I saw Jesus appear. It was his face, just kind of like Bob's was. Only he looked like the painting that I saw in the Lutheran school. That's exactly what he looked like. And I think that he appeared that way because I wouldn't know who Buddha. I wouldn't recognize none of that. That's the religious icon that I knew about, and that's why I saw him. He said one thing to me. He said, "Tell them to love one another, and all will be well." Because he picked up on, I was concerned about the planet and us, and starting to get worried about stuff that I never even thought was right. That I never even knew about. But I saw him, and he just surrounded me and took me in, and I felt so safe and so. It was like I was a baby and I was with my mother. That's kind of how it felt. And he said it to me. Then the light was gone. He left. He was gone, just like that. And and then I look, and I could see where he was, and then past him, I could see all of the planets in a line. They're all this way, and I could see all of their auras, and I could hear all of their sounds. Each sound I could hear from each of the planets, and then I could hear them all together, all depending on what I wanted to hear. And I could see their auras too, all of them, all like boom, 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 all the way across. And it's like, whoa, oh, wow, that was like the coolest thing that I saw in my NDE. It really was. I have a real hard time trying to describe it. But I went there, and I was like, after that, it's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where I should go. Maybe you pick a place. I told Bob, and he said, okay, well, we'll go somewhere. I know where to take you. And so we flew. We came back. We passed all the planets again, all the way back to this place that was near our planet. And where we got there, we were on the outside of it, and I could see souls going back and forth. Some of them had people, guides with them. Other ones didn't. They were just going back and forth from the earth to the city, and the city to the earth. And we went into the area, and we came down, and there was this square. It was like a town square. There was a well in the middle of it, and we were hovering on the ground level. And to the left, there was this house. It was a pretty big house. It wasn't, it was small compared to the building that was on the right. Building on the right was endless. I saw down the side of it, and I couldn't see the end of it, and it was huge. Well, Bob took me into the house and went upstairs, and I saw 4 different souls. There were 4 different ones. Each one had their own room, and they were doing some kind of artsy type stuff in there. And Bob took me to one, and Spirit asked me, "Why are you here?" And they were concerned that I was there. And then I saw the other 3 got the same thing. And then we went out of the building, and we went outside, and then we went into the big building. Big building had these double doors, wood. It was white. It was trimmed in wood. I walked in the double doors, me and Bob, and to my right, there was these double doors with gold handles on them. And to my left, there was this bench. And then forward was big, long hallway, and there was this hall that was just there was a hall like in the middle of it, and I could see spirits in there. They were doing something. I don't know what they were doing, but I saw them. And then Bob said, "I'm going to go into here." He pointed to the doors, and he said, "You have to sit here." Well, there was this wooden bench there, and it glowed. All the wood there glowed, and I sat there and started to remember things. I started to remember things from the past life in Egypt. And I was almost to the point where I was going to find out what exactly I did there when Bob came out of the room and said it was time for me to go in there. And he said, "Don't be afraid, be honest." And I said, okay, I'll remember that. I went in there, and there was this group of spirits. There was like 6 of them. There was a horseshoe table, and they were around the horseshoe table, and in the open part, that's where I was. And they started to play my life. I saw my soul travel through space and down and go into my mother, be born. And then I saw my parents, what happened to them, why they got their divorce. There's all stuff that I didn't know about that I saw. And it's like, okay. Well, they started showing me things like that, like when I was growing up, they showed me all the bad stuff that I did, and they showed me all the good stuff that I did, because I did really do good stuff when I was a kid, when I was younger, and it was like a kind of like a roller coaster type of a thing. I mean, they would stop at certain points. It wasn't my entire life that they showed me, but they showed me the key points of how I got to be the way I was.
Who do you think those beings were?
I'm not sure, but I will tell you, there was one of them that I was deathly afraid of. One of them, I was totally afraid. And I saw him, I was afraid. And these guys, they saw my energy. They know how to read the energy. They know, what I was thinking and how I felt, and then at the end, they asked me, they said, "Well, would you say you were more positive or more negative in your life?" Well, after seeing everything, I thought about it. It's like, I can't say positive, but I really want to. Maybe I'll just say positive. I thought about lying. Okay, well, they know. They know exactly what you're thinking, and they told me that I have a decision to make, and whether I want to go back and live the rest of my life or not. So I told them, no, I want to stay here. I want to stay here. And they said, no. You have to think about it first. And I got ejected out of there. The next thing I knew, I was there in the room, and the next thing I knew, I was outside in this garden. Garden had a stone bench. So I sat down. Bob wasn't around. And I sat down and I started thinking about why I wanted to stay. And trying to figure out how I could stay, because I really wanted to stay. And then Bob came, and I told him, I said, well, he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I really want to stay." "Well, what's going to happen to me when I go back then, if I go back?" He said, "You're going to have a hard time finding jobs. You're going to have money problems. You're going to have health problems. You're going to have relationship problems, and just a lot of stuff." And he also said that I was going to get married soon, and I was so far away from that no girls wanted me. It was just, there's no way. I never even thought that would ever happen for me. But I ended up, I got married. He said I'd get married and I'd have 4 kids. And my wife was near me, he said. And then, what else did he say? He said that I'd be living in the area that I'm living in now. I questioned him. I wanted to know when I was going to be back there, is what I really wanted to know. And I started asking all these leading questions, try to, same question 10 different ways, to try to get a different answer, but.
So wouldn't he answer that for you?
No, the way he is, he makes me think. about my answer. And he said, I'm not going to tell you, that's your thing.
Yeah.
He helps me in other ways.
So tell me why you wanted to stay.
Well, I wanted to stay because of the feeling of it there. The feeling of it there wasn't quite as intense as the feeling that I had when when Jesus surrounded me. It wasn't. That was like way intense. Just total peace. But this place was like that too. It was like I wanted to stay because I wanted to have that feeling. I didn't want it to go away, and I didn't want to go back because I was having a really hard life, and I didn't want it. I wanted to stay. But then he started telling me, about I would have the kids and the wife and everything, where I was going to be living. And
so what was your thought at that point? You liked where you were, but he was telling you all these things that were going to happen.
Right.
Did you believe him?
Things that would happen were required me to be there.
Yeah.
Like if I wasn't there, I wouldn't have kids. And he said one of my kids is going to be different than the others. And I have an autistic son.
Huh. So how many kids do you have?
4.
Okay.
He said I would have a brown dog too. I don't know why he told me that, but I did have a brown dog.
So tell us about the decision you made, how you reported that decision and came back.
Well, I told Bob, I said, well, okay, I'm going to go back for everybody else. That's what I'm going to do. And he said, okay, well, he says, there was this river that was right there that was by the garden. So we went over there, and Bob told me that the river has a function that it washes away memories that you can't take back to the planet. The memories that could harm you, distract you, harm other people. You just it's just some of the stuff you can remember. Some of the stuff I guess is classified because they won't let me remember everything. But they let me remember enough, though, because before I dove into the river, Bob touched me on what would have been my lips, and he said, "You will share." I said, "Okay." So I dove into the river, went down to the bottom, came out, and I was in space. And there was this trail. There's like a glitter trail that was going through. And I followed that glitter trail, and I followed it all the way down to where the Detroit Zoo is. There was this water tower there. I saw the water tower, so I knew what it was, so I went for that. And then I hovered like 3 miles, flew over to where my body was in the house. And I got there. And before I went in, I thought, well, wow, I can move. I know how all this stuff works. I know a lot of stuff about that. Maybe I want to go explore a little more, But then I thought about it. It's like, well, yeah, you also know that there's a lot of danger out there too. So I decided I was just going to go back to my body. I stood by this gate. I saw the sun come up. Sun was coming up, and I could hear it. It's like a sound. I was all excited. I said, I'm gonna tell my friends. I'm gonna tell people about this. This is awesome. Well, went in, got back in my body, and the first thing I did was make sure that things worked. Make sure that I could hand, fingers, nose, toes. Make sure that I'm intact, and I was. So I got up, and it's like 5:30 in the morning, 6:30. My friends were all sleeping, and I said, "Guys, guess what happened?" Woke them all up after a night of partying where everyone's drunk with all the hangovers. Well, I started telling them, and they said, "Oh, stop your crazy talk. You didn't go anywhere. You were just in a chair all night." I tried to tell pretty much everyone that I saw that I knew that day, and nobody would listen. Nobody, and I even got "stop your crazy talk" from other people too. But that's at the end of the day, my energy. When I came back, my energy was up way, way, way high. I was just like, I felt like I could do anything that I wanted to do. My mother, she didn't want to hear about it. She said, "No, I don't want to know." Bob said before I came back, he said I was going to have obstacles in sharing this story. And I have. I told my wife, that's it. I didn't tell anyone else. My wife had to be cool with it. Otherwise I wouldn't have married her.
In your own mind, and I'm not giving you a hard time here, I'm really curious. How do you know this wasn't just a dream, a drug-induced dream of some sort? How do you know this was real?
Well, dreams, you usually forget them. And this was not, and a lot of times they don't make sense. What happened to me made sense, and I remember it all. That's another reason why I got to say it's not a hallucination, because hallucinations don't make sense, and those get forgotten just like dreams.
So let me ask you another question that I think some of our listeners probably were curious of. You mentioned the experience with Jesus. It sounded very brief. Is there anything else about that you can tell us? What he looked like, what he was doing, how it felt?
Well, he just kind of blindsided me. He just his light. He just surrounded me, and that's pretty much what he did. He only said the one thing. That's all he said.
And that thing, as I wrote it down, tell them to love one another, and all will be well. Who did he mean by them? Probably everybody you could talk to?
Everybody.
Yeah. How did he make you feel?
Well, it made me feel like I have a purpose to tell people that. I mean, he made it a point to tell me that, made it a point to that's all he told me, which is really all I needed to know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the bottom line for everything.
You mentioned one of the 6 people that was there when they were doing this life review kind of experience with you, that you were sort of afraid of him. Did you have that feeling with Jesus around?
No, not at all. Not at all. Everything was totally positive. I didn't see any negative in any of it. So
what is without, you don't need to tell us about your whole life since this happened, but what has changed? What in you has changed, and what has this done for you?
Well, afterward, I stopped hanging around with those friends. And when I met my wife, she got rid of them completely. She had a gift for that.
All right, here's another big question for you. I mean, we're all getting older. Are you afraid to die someday?
No, I'm not afraid to die. You know, if it happens, you know, I'm going to accept it, but it's not something that I want to do right away. You know, I'm not in any hurry to go back.
Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to give as sort of a wrap up to summarize what happened, maybe advice for other people?
Well, advice for other people, you know, first is to love one another and all will be well. But what I'd like to say is there is an afterlife out there. If you're, you know, wondering about it, if you're waffling on it, you want to know, you can read my story and that tell you what I know. But then there's all kinds of other stories too. There is an afterlife out there. If you're wondering where your mom went or your aunt or whatever, I'm very confident that they're going to be in the afterlife. And in the afterlife, you can learn, after you die, you learn about the things that you did in your life and what goals that you met, that you set for your life beforehand.
Okay, you know, we all have trials in this life, and I think a lot of yours and a lot of all the rest of ours are here so we can learn something. It's got to be part of what we're here for, right? Right.
And you learn along the way. Like I learned a lot of bad stuff. I learned, you know, no, I won't say bad stuff. I would say serious stuff. Is what I learned about. You know, I didn't get any type of present or anything when I came back. Nothing went away. I was still the same person, wearing the same pants, in the same house, in the same neighborhood.
Same problems.
I was still David. I still had all the stuff that I did and all the same problems when I came back. None of that went away. And I prayed for that kind of stuff to go away too. I even asked Bob. Bob said, "That's you, buddy. It's up to you." You know what to do.
So if people want to hear more, learn more about the experiences that you've had, where can they do that?
Well, there is a book on Amazon. It's called Soul Bear: The Metaphysical Journey. But there's also a website called soulbear.com. Well, my story is on that website. The whole story, it's the same thing as the book. It's just a copy of the book. Different from the book, the website has some pictures, which I wish I could put in the other book, but that's okay. But yeah, those are the two main ways.
Anyway, David, it was so good talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you in Salt Lake City later in the summer.
Yes, I'm going to be there.
Great. Anyway, thanks a lot, and I hope things go well for you.
Yep, you too.
If you've had a round-trip death experience and would like to share it with us, we would love to hear from you. Send an email to me, eric@roundtripdeath.com. And lastly, if you found this program uplifting, if it's given you just a little more hope in the future, share it with a friend. And be sure to visit roundtripdeath.com. Until then, I wish you everything good that you're looking for in this life and the next.